All right, Shabbos, say good morning. Good morning. Let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning. Share to thank our annual Talmud Torah sponsor for Tafshin Pei, the year 5785, the Tilsim Mishpacha of Eretz Yisrael, for dedicating all the Shur Midrashos this year as a zechus for Besoros Tavos Falavan Yisrael. Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Adar, Terry and Steve Zinn, in loving memory of Terry's father, Dr. Harry Khan, Tzvi Hirsch, Ben Yosef HaKohen, the Ziv, Levin, and Berman families in memory of William Ziv, Zev Shmuel Ben Yisrael, Nathan and Beth Adler in memory of Judy Goldman, Yehudis, Esther Bas Elazar, and Gabi and Shane Cohn. Daf Yomi sponsors for today, in relation of the yard site of Gabi's grandfather, Alvin Cohn, Avram Ben Reb Yaakov HaKohen Zichron Livracha. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, all of the Neshama Slav and Aliyah, the families in Nechama, all those who need a refuah should have one together with Kol Choli Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu should merit Hashem bring home our hostages and our holy soldiers should be successful. B'chol Maaseh Yedehem. With that, let us move. We have a lot to do today, Baruch Hashem. Really incredible Gemara. Like I said on the chat yesterday, I've run out of adjectives. I have nothing even to describe anymore. Just how enormous and how incredible this Gemara is. It's also fascinating. And I guess because Daf Yomi is a 7.5-year cycle, you forget cycle to cycle just how incredible all of this Gemara is. In any event, so today's Daf is Tzadik Tes 99. We are picking up in Miras Hashem on Tzadik Ches Amud Beis, and we are picking up V'chin Amar Rabbi Yochanan. It's about probably about 20 lines before it gets wide. V'chin Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Yaisi v'lo ichai mina. Rabbi Yochanan says, I believe and I look forward in Miras Hashem to the coming of Mashiach, but I don't want to see it. So this echoes the sentiment, let him come, but I don't want to see it. This echoes the sentiment that we began to see in yesterday's daf of this group of Rabbanim who of course believe with all of their hearts about Mashiach, but also know all of the pain and difficulty and suffering that is going to precede the Messianic era. So essentially they say, you know what, let Mashiach come, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. In other words, I believe it, I want it to come, but I don't want to see all the pain and the suffering that is going to precede Mashiach. I'm going to read Lakish. So I'll say, first of all, so it's just a very dramatic statement, right? So much of our whole lives is, I want to see Mashiach, I want to see Gula, and here you have Rabbi Yochanan saying, let him come, but I don't really want to see the misfortune and the difficulty that is going to precede it. I'm going to read Lakish. My time. Rabbi Shmuel says, Rabbi Yochanan, what's your problem? In other words, what is it that you're concerned about? Kasha Yanos Ish Mipnei Ha'ari, Upaga Hadof, Uba Abai Samach Yado Alakir V'Nashcho Nachash. So you're going to see like this, the way that the Navi describes, a little bit of the Messianic era or the pre-Messianic era is that there's going to be a constant flow of difficulties, trials, and tribulations. So, for example, that a person will run away from that lion and he'll run into the bear, and then he'll come home. He'll put his hand on the wall, and the snake will bite him. So, the way that the Navi is describing it is essentially in the pre-Messianic era, you go from challenge to challenge, from difficulty to difficulty, from the lion to the bear to the snake. So, Rabbi Yochanan, is that what's bothering you? In other words, is that overwhelming nature of challenge to challenge, difficulty to difficulty, is that what's making you say, let Mashiach come, but I don't want to see it? So this is so profound. Reish Lakish says this pretty much characterizes our life in this world. He says, for example, person goes out into the field. He goes out into his own field. And who does he find in his own field? The surveyor. Now Rashi points out, who is the surveyor? This was the guy in the government whose job it was to figure out how to appropriate fields from private people and make you part of the government. In other words, that he was there. So you go out into your field and you find someone essentially trying to take your stuff. It's just like encountering a lion. Just like a lion is a predatory animal constantly trying to devour up. So you walk into your field, you see someone trying to devour your property. Nichnas le'ir, then you come into the city. Pagabo gabai, you run into the tax collector. And the tax collector, when he sees you, he's not interested in Shalom Aleichem, right? He's interested in taking your money. So once again, Paga, as the Gemara says, it's like running into the bear. So you come into your field, run into the surveyor, it's like running into the lion. Then you come into town, right? And you run into the tax collector, and it's like running into the bear who wants to devour from you. Nichnas lebeso, umatza banav ubenosav, mutalin barav. Then you come home, and you find your children, unfortunately, again, are hungry. are hungry. Now you're going to say, what this is, what is Rish Lakish highlighting over here? That often just, even now, forget about Moshe Mashiach, even now, everywhere I turn, there's challenges, there's difficulty. In the field, there's the surveyor. In the town, there's the tax collector. And then I come home, and my family has its own set of problems. And it's just like being bitten by a snake. So we'll say, so what Rish Lakish, so there's two things I think are coming out of Rish Lakish's statement. Number one, Rish Lakish is saying is, you're so concerned about Rabbi Yochanan, you're so concerned about the misfortunes of the difficulties, the challenges of the pre-Messianic era. Newsflash, there's plenty of difficulties and misfortunes and trials and tribulations in day-to-day life. We have this stuff now. It's not like now life is easy in the pre-Messianic era, it becomes difficult. Life is challenging right now. That's the one that Rish Lakish is saying to Rabbi Yochanan. But there's also another takeaway from this, which is incredibly important. One of the most potentially damaging mindsets that a person could have as they go through life is the expectation that somehow life is supposed to be easy. And for some reason, we have this notion, right? That life is supposed to be easy. Life, the pieces are supposed to drop into place, and things are supposed to be okay. And when they're not okay, that's like an aberration. That's the abnormal piece. And I think what Rish Lakish is highlighting is that is not true. Don't walk around life with an expectation that it's easy. Life is not easy. Life is filled with constant challenges that come upon us one after the other. Are there moments of tranquility in the midst of a sea of challenges? Yes, there are. There absolutely are. But the de facto state of life is one of challenge. You go into the field, there's a challenge. You come into the town, there's a challenge. You come home to your family, there's a challenge. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means that is the reality of life. And I will say sometimes when we go through life and we expect things to be tranquil and we expect things to be easy, and when they're not, we become so disillusioned and so upset and so broken. What happened? Where did I go wrong? Because my expectations are flawed. Everything is flawed. I think it's very Rish Lakish is saying to Rabbi Yochanan, life is hard. It's hard now. It's pre-Messianic era. That's the way it is. But if you embrace it and you lean into it and you understand it and you accept it, then at the end of the day you can figure out how to maximize it. Such an incredible Gemara. Ella mishum dechsev shaluna ru'u im yelad zachar madua re'isi kol gever yad v'chalatzav kileda v'nebchu kol panam li'yerakon. Rather, Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan, maybe you're bothered by the following pasuk. Now, what does the pasuk mean? My Ra'isi kol gever. What does that mean? I've seen all men. I will say now, interestingly enough, the Navi over here is describing, it's interesting. Once again, all of these psukim seem to be describing the pre-Messianic era. This is Yomi Navi, and he's saying like a man will grasp his stomach, right, and turn pale like a woman, like a pregnant woman. So the Gemara says, my Ra'isi kol gever. What does it mean? I've seen all men. Amarav Yitzchak, Amarav Misha kol gevura shalo. I saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay. Umay nefchu kol panam li'yerakon. And what does it mean that the Ribono Shalom's face turns pale? What does that mean? Amrav Yochanan, Pamalya Shamala Pamalya Shamata Bishar Sha'amra. So what it refers to is like this. Literally again, Pamalya means the palace, the celestial palace, the earthly palace. What does this mean? This is incredible. Bishar Sha'amra Kadosh Baruch Hu Halalu Masi Yadai V'Halalu Masi Yadai Heich Evad Elu Mipne Elu. So let's listen to this. The Moshe says like this: these are my creations, and these are my creations. How can I destroy these before these? I will say, this is an incredible Gemara. What Gemara is highlighting is like this: Messianic era is incredible. Why? Because it represents the success of Klal Yisrael and the downfall of other nations. It is important for us to understand that as much as HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to bring about our success, when the Moshe brings about the downfall of other nations, it is painful for him. Right? Why is it painful for him? Because we are all God's children. This is incredibly important to remember. Jews have not cornered the market on God. God, the Ribono Shalom, belongs to everyone, and everyone belongs to the Ribono Shel Olam. V'rachamav al kol ma'asav. And he loves everyone, and he cares for everyone, and he wants the success of everyone. It's true. As a people, as a nation, we have a different and unique relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the relationship is for all of humanity to have. This is what I will say, this ties back before. Remember again, earlier in Sanhedrin, it's hard to remember anything but Agarata in Daf Yomi right now. But remember again, once upon a time when we learned like Gemara, so you remember again, we had the whole sugya of Shem Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, Right? How do you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves everyone? If the Rosh Hashanah only loved Klal Yisrael, then we would have a mitzvah to proselytize and to convert the world. Yet, amazingly enough, we don't. In fact, just the opposite. We say, don't convert. You got 7 mitzvahs. Do that, and Hashem loves you. You don't need to do what we do. We don't need to do what you do. And everybody's beloved by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when Messianic era comes and Klal Yisrael is lifted up and the other nations are punished, that is hard for Hashem. It's hard for the Ribono Shalom to have to punish any of his children, even if they're deserving of it. So the Gemara says, this is the famous adage, this is the famous adage that when your ox is running and it becomes injured and it can no longer feed from its trough, put your horse by that trough. But what's the problem? Then when the ox is at a refuah shalema and it's ready to go back to its trough, the problem is you feel bad for taking the horse away from the trough. Okay, so the metaphor, of course, is that Klal Yisrael had greatness. We lost our greatness because of a variety of different life mistakes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave our position to the nations of the world. And then when the Messianic era comes, he's taking that back and giving that back to us. But it's difficult for Hashem. I must say, a really profound Gemara. It's difficult for the Ribono Shel Olam to go ahead and do this. Amrav Gidl Amrav. Asidni Yisrael Da'achli Shnei Mashiach. Klal Yisrael is going to benefit. We are going to reap the benefits of the years of Mashiach. Amrav Yosef is great. Amrav Yosef is like this. Pshita. Of course we're going to reap the benefits. Ve'alaman achalahu chilik ubilik. Who else is going to get it? Right? In other words, if it's not Klal Yisrael, if we're not going to reap the benefits of it, who's going to reap the benefits of it? Chilik and bilik? Chilik and bilik? We'll say it's an expression. Chilik ubilik achli, right? Joe Schmo. Who else is going to get it if not Klal Yisrael? So the Gemara says, Fukim with Rabbi Hillel. It's coming to the school position Rabbi Hillel. We're going to see Rabbi Hillel a number of times. Rabbi Hillel is not Hillel, right? 2 different people. So we're going to see the position of Rabbi Hillel a number of times today. The Amar Ein Mashiach LiYisrael. Rabbi Hillel says, Klal Yisrael will not go ahead and reap the benefits of the future Messianic era. Why? Shekvar achlu b'mei Chizkiah. First wide line, 98b. Because we have already reaped the benefits of a Messianic era during the heyday of Chizkiah Melech Yehuda. This is Rabbi Hillel. We've already received the euphoric benefits of Yemos HaMashiach during the days of Chizkiah. So therefore, Rav Gidl says, in the name of Rav, that's not true. We reject that position. We reject Rabbi Hillel. In fact, we will reap the glorious benefits of the Messianic era. Amrav, lo ivri alma al David. This is a beautiful Gemara. Rav says, it was worth it for the Ribono Shalom to create an entire world just for David HaMelech. Just for David. So Shmuel says, Moshe. It was worth it for Hashem to create an entire world just for Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Mashiach, Rabbi Yochanan says, worth it for Hashem to create an entire world just for Mashiach. So Rashi points out over here, what does it mean with David? Because David went ahead and said, beautiful shira, beautiful song. Moshe brought down the Torah, and ultimately Mashiach, of course, Mashiach's going to work his magic, right? Mashiach is going to bring about dramatic change for the entire world. I will say, but the deeper message of this Gemara is when a person actualizes their potential, which is the common denominator over here. David HaMelech actualized his potential. Moshe Rabbeinu actualized his potential. Mashiach will actualize his potential. When a person actualizes their potential, it is worth it for the Ribono Shalom to create the entire world for one person to actualize his potential. And the truth is also, the beauty of that Gemara is there's one more phrase. The additional phrase is, insert your name here. It was worth it for Hashem to create a world for David, worth it to create a world for Moshe, worth it to create a world for Mashiach, and now, let it be that it was worth it for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to create the world for you. If you maximize your potential, you actualize your potential, like David, like Moshe, like Mashiach, then it was worth it for the Ribono Shalom to create an entire world just for you as well. Incredible. So the Gemara says, incredible. The Gemara says, good. Mashmo. By the way, Mashmo. What's Mashiach's name? What's Mashiach's name? Because remember again, Mashiach is much more of a descriptive term of someone who is going to go ahead and bring about salvation. Or I should say, the truth is, Mashiach really means like anointed one, like Mashuach. Right? What's his name? So the Be'er Reb Shila Amri Shilo Shmo. His name is Shiloh. Tichsiv Shneimar Ad Kiyavo Shiloh. This is Parshas Vayechi, when the bracha that Yaakov gives to Yehuda, right? Lo Yasser Shevet Yehuda Mechokik Mi Bein Raglov Ad Kiyavo Shiloh. So again, Shiloh is the name of Mashiach. Debei Rabbi Yanai Amrei Yinon Shmo. His name is Yinon. Yinon means continuity. Shene Emar Yehi Shmo the Olam Lefnei Shemesh Yinon Shmo. Debei Rabbi Chanina Amar Chanina Shmo. His name is Chanina. Shene Emar Asher Lo Etein Lochem Chanina. V'yesh Omrim Menachem Ben Chizkiya Shmo. Others say no, his name is Menachem Ben Chizkiya. They will say Shene Emar Ki Rachok Mimeni Menachem Meshiv Nafshi Echa. What does Mashiach do? Both say the whole Yisod is Mashiach brings about comfort, right? Mashiach brings about consolation. So it's interesting. Menachem, he's the great consoler, the consoler from thousands of years of Galus. Ben Chizkiya. Chizkiya doesn't necessarily have to be his father's name. Chizkiya could be a descriptive name. Chizkiya, remember again, is Chazek Ka. That ultimately, again, where does the power of Mashiach come from? The power of Mashiach comes from the Ribono Shel Olam. Incredible. So the Rabbi say, by the way, I'll point out, there's Yerushalmi like this as well. The Yerushalmi says that the name of Mashiach is Menachem. That's where he brings down also Mashiach, that Menachem. It's incredible. Rabbanan Amri, Chivra debei Rabbi Shmuel. So interestingly enough, the Rabbanan say that his name is literally again the white one of Bei Rebbe. The Rabbanan say, what does that mean? Rashi says over here, Mitzora shel Beis Rebbe. Ultimately, again, he is the Mitzora of Beis Rebbe. Now, say this seems to loop back into what we saw before in yesterday's daf. That where does Mashiach live? Mashiach lives by the gates of Rome, and he's a leper. What does it mean that he's a leper of the house of Rebbe? Rebbe was a direct descendant of David HaMelech. See, he's a leper, essentially a leper from the house of David, a leper from the house of Rebbe. Incredible. So the Gemara says, Shemo Shene Emar Achin Chalinu Hunasa Machavinu Savanu Vanachnu Chashvenu Nagua Muka Lokimuruna. Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman, I Min Chayahu. So this is incredible. Rav Nachman says, if Mashiach is someone who is alive, currently alive, Kigon Ana, then he's probably someone like me. Okay, now I'll say, that requires a little bit of interpretation, right? But it's always good to be confident, right? If Mashiach is someone who's of the living, he's probably like me. And I'm saying, what does that mean? Rav Nachman wasn't proclaiming himself Mashiach. What Rav Nachman was saying was the following idea, namely that what did Rav Nachman represent? Number one, he was the son-in-law of the Reish Galusa, so he had power. Number two, he had Torah. So what Rav Nachman was saying was, he was rejecting this notion of Mashiach being the leper by the gates of Rome, but rather understanding that Mashiach is someone prominent. I will say, it's interesting to think about this. I think in our mind, we never think of Mashiach as being the leper by the gates of Rome. We think about Mashiach as being someone great. Because after all, again, he's got to reveal his identity and everyone has to accept him. How that's going to happen will be very interesting to see. But Rav Nachman says, if Mashiach is alive, he's probably someone like me, with connections and with Torah. Shneimar v'haya adira mimenu Moshe mikirbo yisei amrav imin chaya hugigon Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Not true. If Mashiach is someone like the living, or if you want to say like he resembles someone who's currently alive, he's more like Rabbi Huda Anasi. It's like Rabbi Huda Anasi. Min Mesia, if he's someone like who's dead, kigon Daniel ish chamudos. He must be like someone who's like Daniel. Now, Rashi points out over here, why like Daniel? If you look at Rashi says over here, Imin chayahu kimin kigon Rabbeinu HaKadosh, im Mashiach me'osan shechayim achshav, v'adei hainu Rabbeinu HaKadosh to solve a chalav. Now, both say, the common denominator between Rabbi Huda Anasi and Daniel is they both suffered. They both suffered, right? Rabbi Huda Anasi suffered from terrible intestinal illness that ultimately claims his life. And Daniel suffered a lot in his life also, right? Being the trusted servant of Nebuchadnezzar was not easy. Being thrown into a lion den, not easy, right? So the idea over here, the Gemara is saying over here, is Mashiach is someone who is battle-tested. And I both say this goes back before to the conversation between Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan as well. But Rabbi Yochanan says, let Mashiach come, I don't want to see him. Rish Lakish says, what's your problem? You think that because the Messianic era is going to be difficult, life is difficult. But I both say, but you know what the secret I think that we learn as we go on in life is we become great not despite our difficulties. We become great because of our difficulties. If you think about it, by the way, it's not, no one ever says, you know what, I really became who I am because of the brachos that I have. You have so many brachos, and because of all those brachos really pushed me to excellence. In fact, fakir, it's often just the opposite. You know what the challenge with brachos is? The challenge with brachos is brachos sometimes have the danger of keeping us tethered to mediocrity. Because hey, life is good. Everything is good. People become great because of their challenges, not because of their blessings. So I'll say, so that's what Reish Lakish is saying to Rabbi Yochanan. I think that's what's happening over here. The Gemara is saying, understand Mashiach is someone who suffers. You can't become a Mashiach with an easy life. You cannot become Mashiach if you always take the easy path. You can't take Mashiach if every single time things get difficult, you run the other way. That's not how it works. Mashiach is someone who suffers, battles through it, makes it through on the other side, scarred, battled, and bruised, but stronger because of it. Let's say it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. We so often spend our lives running away from difficulty. Challenge comes, let me find the other way. It's uncomfortable, let me run the other way. I don't like it, let me run the other way. Instead of saying, no, this is what makes me great. The comfort doesn't make me great. The bracha doesn't make me great. Challenge makes me great. And if when it presents itself, you say to yourself, I got this. I'm not running. I'll stare it down and I'll go right through it. That's where greatness comes from. That's where Mashiach comes from. That's where Rabbi Yehuda Nasi comes from. That's where Daniel comes from. I will say, think about the life of any single great person through the history of Klal Yisrael. And ask yourself one simple question. Do they have an easy life? And you can answer with absolute certainty. The answer is no. No, there is not one great person throughout the history of our people who has had an easy life. And it's not, look, they become great despite their difficulties. No, that's a false statement. They didn't become great despite their difficulties. They became great because of their difficulties. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Daniel, Mashiach, Reish Lakish, Rabbi Akiva, Moshe Rabbeinu, David HaMelech, Sari Imenu. It doesn't matter. You plug in the name of every single great person, the narrative is the same. Incredible. I think we're just going to do Sanhedrin, maybe like through Pesach. We'll just whatever. Well, maybe through Shavuos. It says as follows. So much. So we'll say it's going to be another David HaMelech. This is exciting, right? There's going to be another David HaMelech. When Mashiach comes, remember, part of what Mashiach comes is, we'll say, part of what we're going to do also, what we have not done purposely by the time, because we're going to get to it, is we're going to go through the Rambam. Because remember, again, there's like a lot of stuff that's happening over here. There's Chavlei Mashiach, pre-Messianic era. There's Mashiach. There's Tchinas HaMesim. There's this thing called Olam Haba, which may be where you go after you die, but it may also be what's called the period after Mashiach comes, and there's restoration of Davidic monarchy. Now, the timeline for all of those events, the Gemara hasn't really been clear on, because it's also subject to controversy. We're going to get to the timeline also, but the point over here the Gemara says is there's restoration of Davidic monarchy, which means, amazingly enough, there's another David HaMelech. Another David HaMelech. So the Gemara says, Shnei Amar, ve'ivdu es Hashem Elokehem, ve'es David Malkam, asher akim lohem. And you will write, and you will serve David, who I will establish in future tense. Heikim lo ne'emar, elo akim. It doesn't say, I did establish, rather I will establish. So there'll be another David HaMelech in the future. I amr Papa Abaye, v'haksev, v'David avdi, nasi lahem li olam. But we already have a David HaMelech, so this means going to be another David HaMelech. So the Gemara says, you're right, ki gon Kesar, upalgi Kesar. It's kind of like a king and an assistant king. So it says, so get ready for this. There'll be, after Mashiach, there'll be restoration of Davidic monarchy. There's going to be a new Davidic king. But there's also going to be Tchias HaMesim. So what's going to happen with the former David HaMelech? He's going to be the assistant king. Now let's say, by the way, if former David HaMelech is the assistant king, can you imagine who the new king is going to be? Can you just imagine what that absolutely is going to be like? So new king, new Davidic king, and former David HaMelech, or first David HaMelech, ultimately again, is going to be the Sheni Lo, is going to be the assistant king. Incredible. Tar Shas Malay, Mai Dichsiv, Hay Hamisavim Es Yom Hashem, Lama Ze Lachem Yom Hashem, Choshech V'Lo Ar. So we'll say, what is this? So again, it's talking about desiring for the Yom Hashem Messianic era. It'll be a day of light, darkness, and not light. What does this mean? Mashal Tarnagol V'Atalei Shem Mitzapeh La'ar. So there was a story, right? It's like a mashal of a tarnagol is a chicken. Atalef is a bat. is a bat that are both waiting for daybreak. So the chicken said to the bat, he says, "Ani mitzapa la'ora sha'ora shalihu shalihi." So the chicken says, the rooster says, "Listen, I'm waiting for the morning because it makes sense. The morning is my thing, right? I do mornings, right? That's like, oh, I wish I did mornings, right? I do mornings. In other words, when the morning comes, I crow. That's my thing, right? But bat, you don't use light. So what are you doing? What are you doing with the morning? So it's the top of Tzadik test 99. So Rashi says over here, I'm sorry, before we go to Tzadik, sorry. The last Rashi on 98b, She'ora Shalihu, Sheish Li'enayim Liros V'nam Tzisi Ne'enes Ba, Kach Yisham and Tzap and Lagula, Sheyom Hashem Ye'or, Avala Ovdi Gochavim, Lama Mekavim also, Shari Lam Choshev V'lo Or. So it's like Klal Yisrael always for the Messianic era. Why? Because for us it's going to be light. But for the nations of the world, it's not going to be light. For the nations of the world, it's going to be darkness. And I will say, so again, so this is what we spoke about before, because Lamaisa is going to be this upset of power. So Klal Yisrael is the rooster, and the nations of the world are the bat. So we'll say, so there was this non-believer who said to Rabbi Avo, Emasei asim Mashiach. Yes, Rabbi Avo, when is Mashiach coming? When darkness devolves upon you, the Ovdei Kochavim, that's when Mashiach will come. Amarle milat kalayisli. So the min said to Rabbi Avo, "You're cursing me." I'm just asking a question. Why are you cursing me? Amarle krok said, "No, I'm not cursing you. I'm telling you a pasuk. What's the pasuk? Ki hine achoshech yichas haaretz va'arafel leumim va'alecha yizrach Hashem u'kavoda alecha yirah." Because again, I will say the way the pasuk describes Messianic era is light for Klal Yisrael, darkness for the nations of the world. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Yemos Mashiach Arbaim Shana. I will say, so now, interesting enough, the Gemara begins a discussion about the duration of Yemos HaMashiach. How long does the Messianic era go on for? And as well say, that's what I'm saying. It's interesting that the way the Gemara seems to be operating right now is that, like I said, there's Chevli Mashiach, pre-Messianic era, Yemos HaMashiach, and then after Yemos HaMashiach, that begins Olam Haba, the world to come. So how long does Messianic era go on for? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer Omer Mashiach, Arbaim Shana, 40 years. Shnei Amar, it's incredible, right? We say this phrase all the time, and I think we don't necessarily think about what it's actually saying, right? 40 years, akut b'dar. So again, that's right for the Messianic era. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, Shivim Shana, 70 years, Shnei Amar, Vayaba Yamahu, V'nishkachas Tzur, Shivim Shana, Kimi Melech Echad. So the Gemara says, Eizu Melech Miyuchad, Havi Omer Zeh Mashiach. Okay, Rabbi says, Shalosh Doros, 3 generations. Shlosha Doros. Shnei Amar, Yiraucha im Shemesh, V'lifnei Yareach Dar Darim. Rabbi Hillel says, Ein lahem Mashiach L'Yisrael. I'm supposed to say the same Rabbi Hillel as we saw before. Rabbi Hillel says, Chevra, enough. There is no greatness waiting for us in the Messianic era. The Gemara says, why? Shekvar achlu b'mei Chizkiah. We already enjoyed the benefits of the Messianic era during the days of Chizkiah Hanavi. Amar Rav Yosef, Chizkiah Melech, sorry. Amar Rav Yosef says, listen to this, Shari le Mar Rabbi Hillel. So essentially, Rabbi Hillel, God should forgive you. How can you even say such a thing like that? To say that Mashiach, that we're not going to enjoy the benefits of Mashiach, absolutely unequivocally wrong. Chizkiah Amos Hav. I'll tell you, very simple. When did Chizkiah live? The Bayis Rishon. Chizkiah was king during the days of the first Beis HaMikdash. Bilu Zechariah kamistavi bebayis sheni va'amar. Gili ma'od bas Sion, Hari bas Yerushalayim, Hine malkech yavolacha, Tzadik v'nosha, Hu ani barochiv achamor va'al ir ba'asanaso. So again, so the Gemara Rabbi Yosef says it's not true. I'll tell you why. Chizkiah lived during the times of the first Beis HaMikdash, and yet Zechariah is prophesizing during the days of the second Beis HaMikdash and telling us that what? Mashiach's going to come. So you see from here again that even the Navi understood that Mashiach is still going to come. Tanya Idach, Rabbi Elazar Omer, Yemos Mashiach Arbaim Shana. Rabbi Elazar says the Messianic era lasts 40 years. Ksiv Hacha says over Vayan Chavi Ari Ve'achavi Achilcha by the man. Shaddai says Hashem afflicted you, He deprived you, and He gave you man for 40 years. Ksiv Hasam Samchinu Kimos Ini Sanu Shnos Ra'inu Ra'a. Give us joy corresponding to the number of years that you afflicted us. So the same notion of affliction. It has affliction by man, which was consumed for 40 years, and Hashem will save us from affliction during the Messianic era, 40 years. Rabbi Dosa says, Daled Meos Shana. Ultimately, again, it's 400 years. Ksiv Hacha, it says over here, Ve'ivdum v'inu osam arba meos shana, by Galus Mitzrayim. The Mitzrayim will abuse us for 400 years. That ultimately we'll have simcha like the years of our affliction. Affliction went on for 400 years. Yemos Mashiach for 400 years. Rabbi says, this is this. Gimel meos v'shishin v'chamesh shana. Kamin yemos achama. Messianic era will extend for 365 years, corresponding to the number of days in a year. Shene emar kiyom nakam balibi ushnos geuli bar. Well, it's actually quite beautiful. It's almost as if that Hashem will make up for all of the difficulties and suffering that we have endured over the years. 365 years. Ma yom nakam balibi. Rabbi Yochanan, I will say first wide line. Lelibi galisi le'evari lo galisi. I will say it's interesting that when it comes to the Messianic secret, so to speak, Hashem keeps it close to the chest. Right? Hashem says that ultimately, again, my heart knows, but even the rest of my limbs, kiviyachol, don't know. Rav Shimon Lakish Amar Lelibi galisi le'malachi asharis lo gilisi. Suppose it's incredible that Hashem says, I know Mashiach is coming, but I don't even reveal it to the malachim, which also goes back to yesterday's daf, right? When Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi asked Eliyahu HaNavi, when is Mashiach coming? And Eliyahu HaNavi himself, who was the messenger, right, to herald in the coming of Mashiach, said, I don't know. I don't know. So it goes like, Tanya Avim Rabbi Avo. So I'll say second wide line. Yemos Mashiach Yisrael, Shivas Alafim Shana. Incredible. Yemos Mashiach goes on for 7,000 years. That sounds good. Let's go with that one, right? Right, Messianic era is 7,000 years. I will say, where does this come from? And this is, I'm sorry? Right? And this is absolutely beautiful. Listen to this. Shene Emar umisos chasan al kala. How beautiful is this? I'll say, because ultimately, again, I'm sorry. Misos chasan al kala yosis alayich Hashem elokecha. The Rebbe will rejoice over us like a chasan does a kala. Just like a chasan and kala have sheva brachas. So in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, one day is like 1,000 years. So therefore, so to speak, Messianic era is like sheva brachas. Also, which is such a beautiful idea. The Messianic era is like the Shabbat Yikash Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael, and it'll go on for 7,000 years. Rabbi Shmuel, Yemos Mashiach Kimiyom Shenivra Olam Viad Achshav. Rabbi Yehuda said the Shmuel Messianic era will extend the amount of time from the time that the world was created up until now. That amount of time. Shneimar Kimei Shamayim Ala Aretz. Nacham Yitzchak Amar Kimei Noach Ad Achshav. It goes from the days of Noach until now. Shneimar Kimei Noach Zos Li Asher Nishbati. Abar Abba Am Rabbi Yochanan. Kol Neviim. Also, it's another beautiful Gemara over here. Kol Neviim Lo Nisnav U El Limos HaMashiach. In general, the Neviim only prophesied for the Messianic era. I will say now let's talk about this just a moment. What does this mean? The Nevi'im are filled with incredible and beautiful and simchadik prophecies about what the future is going to hold for Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Yochanan says, those prophecies are about Yemos HaMashiach, the Messianic era. Avali Olam Haba, when it comes to the world to come, Ayin lo ra'asa Elokim zulasecha, Elokim yasa lemechak lo. When it comes to Olam Haba, no one has any idea about the greatness of it. So in other words, all of the greatness that we find contained in the prophets, all of that description about beautiful, euphoric, utopian type life, that's for Yemos HaMashiach, Messianic era. But Olam Haba, no one has any idea about the greatness that is in store. No one has any idea about the beauty that is waiting for us in all of that. So the Gemara goes weiter. Opliga de Shmuel. This argues on Shmuel. Damar Shmuel. Ein beina olam hazeh Yemos HaMashiach ela shibud malchias bilvad. This argues on Shmuel because Shmuel says there is no distinction between Yemos HaMashiach, the Messianic era, and ultimately again shibud malchias. Now we'll say, ela shibud malchias bilvad. Now this is interesting. Shmuel says the Messianic era is pretty much it's regular life. Mashiach comes, regular life. What's the difference? Shibud malchias. So what is shibud malchias? We're not oppressed by anyone else. Which, by the way, is no small thing, right? Where like the world leaves us alone. The world respects Klal Yisrael, so there's no Shibud Malchias. The Amar Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So just pointing out over here, you should just we have to keep like a running list of these machloksim. So once again, like, what is Yemos HaMashiach? What is the Messianic era? Is it some type of supernatural, overwhelming type of existence, or the Gemara says no? Maybe it's just simply Shiva Malchus. It's regular life. Regular. You got to pay your bills. You got to pay. I don't know. Hopefully there'll be like day school vouchers. You know. You can hopefully we'll get that out. Everybody, right? So Lamaisa again. So Lamaisa, it's a regular world. It's a regular world. Everything goes on the way it's supposed to be going on. Just Shiva Malchus. But this is beautiful. All of the beautiful bracha that the Nevi'im prophesies about, that's what Baalei Tshuva will get. About tzaddikim gimurim ayin lo ras elakim zulasecha. But for tzaddikim gimurim, for absolute tzaddikim, the eye cannot even fathom. I should say, the eye has not even seen the great schar that is waiting for them. So all the great things that the Nevi'im prophesies about, that's for Baalei Tshuva. But for tzaddikim gimurim, for absolutely righteous people, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows the greatness and the beauty that is in store for them. Now listen, I watch this. Please Rabbi Avo. This argues Rabbi Avo. What is Rabbi Avo? Dam Rabbi Avo. Makom Baalei Tshuva omdim. Tzadikim gimurim einan omdim. Rabbi Avo holds differently. Rabbi Avo says no. Baalei Tshuva are greater than tzadikim gimurim. The place where Baalei Tshuva stand, tzadikim gimurim could never stand. So we'll say you now have a fundamental machlokis over here. Who's greater? The tzaddik gomer, the absolutely righteous person, who perhaps never sinned. Obviously, every person sinned, but never like sinned in a dramatic way, or the Baal Tshuva, who sinned and clawed his way back. Who is greater? And Rabbi say this is a fundamental machlokes. A fundamental machlokes between Rabbi Abba or Rabbi Yochanan and ultimately again Rabbi Avo. Rabbi Yochanan holds that halacha l'maaseh the tzaddik gomer is greater than the Baal Tshuva, and Rabbi Avo holds the Baal Tshuva is greater than the tzaddik gomer. Shnei Amar Shalom Shalom l'rachok u'lekarov. Kadosh Baruch Hu says Shalom Shalom to the one who is far and the one who is near. Bereisha rachok v'hadar karov. My rachok tmei kara. So I'm sorry. The rachok bereisha. So I'll say v'hadar karov. So I'll say interestingly enough, Rabbi Avo says, right. Rabbi Avo says that if you notice, Hashem gives shalom first to the rachok, to the one who is far. Who's the one who is far? The one who was far and then came back. That's the Baal Tshuva. The Baal Tshuva gets the first Shalom Aleichem from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Only after the Baal Tshuva gets the Shalom Aleichem, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives it to the Tzadikim. My Rachok D'mei Kara, Umay Karov D'mei Kara. Udahashtav. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, L'Rachok, Shei Rachok Me'avera, Karov Shu Karov Me'avera V'Nisachim Era. No, Rabbi Yochanan says, no, Rachok means the one who was always distant from Avera, i.e., the tzaddik gomer, who was the karov. Karov was the one who was close to Avera, but now changed his life. So we'll say, so fundamental machlok is about who has greater standing in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the tzaddik gomer or the Baal Tshuva. Incredible. The Rabbi goes like, Rabbi Yochanan, Kol Nevi'im Kulan, Lo Nisnavu El Lameisi Bito Tam Tchacham. So listen to this. All of the bracha that the Nevi'im have, right? All the bracha that the Nevi'im have is a reference ultimately again to someone who marries off his daughter to a Talmid Chacham, u'le'oseh prakmatya leTalmid Chacham, or one who goes ahead and does business with a Talmid Chacham, u'le'mahana Talmid Chacham min chasab, and one who gives benefit to a Talmid Chacham from his parents. In other words, saying there is great reward for those who support Torah and for those who help Talmidei Chachamim. Okay, and overwhelming reward. Aval Talmidei Chacham atzman, but I will say even greater than supporting Torah is what? Becoming a Talmid Chacham yourself. And if a person becomes a Talmid Chacham, ayin lo ras elakim zulasecha. Ultimately, again, the reward is so great for such a person that no one has received that reward besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Incredible. My ayin lo ras. So I'm Rabbi Shmuel ben Levi. So I'll say, what is this reward? By the way, what is this reward for Talmidei Chachamim? What is it? What is it? As great honors, all of the great things you see in the Nevi'im, that's for a person who helps the Talmid Chacham, who supports the Talmid Chacham, who helps to support Torah. But the Talmid Chacham himself, my gosh, the reward that is waiting for him. What is this great reward? So this is incredible. Ze yayin hamashumar ba'anavav misheshis mebereshis. So I'll say that is one aged bottle of wine, right? So this is wine that comes from the grapes that were created during the 6 days of creation. That is the great reward waiting for Talmidei Chachamim. The Gemara says incredible. I will say there's much to say about this. Like what does that mean? What does that mean? So I will say when we know this, that when a person learns Torah and when a person devotes themselves to becoming a Talmid Chacham, wanting to grow in Torah, and this applies to all of us, So I will say what they're doing is they're aligning their lives with the very purpose of creation. The purpose of creation in this world was the actualization of Torah, was to take the beauty of Torah, to learn it, and to live it in this world. When a person makes themselves into a Talmid Chacham, they're fulfilling the very purpose for which this world was created. How is that manifest? You get to drink wine from the 6 days of creation. There's almost like this perfect circle, this perfect harmony between the life that I am living and the very purpose of creation. Reish Lakish says, Ze Eden. This refers to Eden, that the Talmid Chacham gets to enjoy Eden. The Gemara says, what do you mean? How can you say no one ever saw Eden? Adam, Harishon, lived in Eden. Gan hu Eden. Well, maybe you say Gan is the same thing as Eden. The pasuk says that a river came out of Eden to go ahead and sustain the garden. Both say Gan Eden are two different things. We call it Gan Eden, but there's the Gan, there's the garden, and then there is Eden. So Adam Harishon ultimately again lived in the Gan, right? But at the end of the day, Eden is that place that is reserved ultimately for Talmidei Chachamim. Incredible. So back to the Mishnah, which is don't worry, I got it, does not finish. One of the things, remember again, the Mishnah began by saying that every Yid, every Jew has a portion of the world to come. And then interestingly enough, the Mishnah then went on to enumerate the people who don't have a portion of the world to come. So one of those people was, Ha'omer Ein Torah Hashem. If a person says Torah is not divine, person says Torah is not from Hashem, Torah is not divine, such a person does not have a portion in the world to come. I says the Gemara, T'nan Rabbanan, ki dvar Hashem biza, u'mitzvaso hafer hikaris tikaris. So what does it mean when it says that he degraded, ki dvar Hashem biza, degraded the word of Hashem? Zeh omer ein Torah min Hashem. This refers to someone who says Torah is not divine. Davar acher, ki dvar Hashem biza, zeh apikores. This refers ultimately again to apikores. We'll define these terms in just a little bit. Davar acher, ki dvar Hashem biza, zeh hamegala panim batorah. This refers to someone who advances inappropriate interpretations in Torah. Megala panim batorah. Literally again, revealed this is just inappropriate interpretations of Torah. Ve'es mitzvasa hafer, zeh hamefer bris basar. This is someone who annuls bris milah. So he kares tikares, he'll be cut off. He kares ba'olam hazeh. He's cut off from this world and the next world. Listen to this. Rabbi Hamodi said based on this, someone will say who again disparages or profanes karbanos, or someone who goes ahead and degrades Yomim Tovim, or one who goes ahead and annuls the circumcision, someone who advances interpretations of Torah that are incorrect, or someone who embarrasses his friend in public, even though such a person has Torah Maisim Tovim, he does not have a portion in the world to come. We'll say very, very, very profound Gemara. He degraded the word of Hashem. This is a person who says Torah is not divine. Not only that, but even a person says the entire Torah is from Hashem, but one pasuk, oh, Hashem didn't say this, this must have been Moshe who said this. This is also called degrading the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and ultimately, again, it doesn't have portion of the world to come. V'afilu amar, kol haTorah kula min Hashem chutz midiktuk zeh, mikal v'chomer zeh, migzer shava zu, zehu tvar ki dvar Hashem bis. Rabbi say, even if a person says, maybe the entire Torah is from Hashem, but this diuk, this gzer shava, this kal v'chomer, that is ultimately, again, degradation of the word of Hashem, and such a person forfeits his portion in the world to come. Tanya, Ramir says, Halomi Torah ve'ino lamda, zeh dvar Hashem bizo. Says beautiful. Ramir says, no, what does it mean? It means a person who learns Torah but doesn't teach it. This is a degradation of the word of Hashem. Shabbos say it's so beautiful, and we know this. The Torah we learn is not just for us. The Torah we learn is meant to be shared. And if a person learns it but doesn't share it, that there's a pegam, there's something missing in their Torah. We'll say it's also, by the way, if you learn and you don't share, it means that Torah, you didn't really feel the full excitement of Torah. When you hear something beautiful, you hear good news, you hear something wonderful, by definition, you want to share it with whoever you can. How do you know if Torah makes a true impact on you? If you learn it and you want to share it, if you learn it and you want to give it over to someone else, that means that Torah has mamish permeated your neshama. If you hear it and you're like, oh, that's nice, that's nice, and you have no desire to share it, it means Torah is not having the full effect on who and what you are. Rabbi Nassim says as follows. Rabbi Nassim says, "Kol mi she'enu mashgiach ala mishnah." Rabbi Nassim Omer, "Kol mi she'enu mashgiach ala mishnah." Rabbi Meir says, "What's Devar Hashem biza? What does that refer to?" That refers to someone who is not careful with the interpretations of the Mishnah. Rabbi Norai Omer, "Kol she'ef shalasa b'Torah ve'eno osek." Wow. Rabbi Norai says, what does it mean to degrade the word of Hashem? If you could learn Torah and you don't do it, that ultimately, again, is degrading the word of Hashem. Well, it's incredible. You have the opportunity to do so. Failure to seize the opportunity to learn Torah is in and of itself a degradation of the Rosh Hashanah. So Rabbi Shmuel Silber, this refers ultimately to someone who worships idolatry. My masha, the time of Rabbi Shmuel, ki devar Hashem biza, zeh hamevazeh dibor. This refers to one ultimately, again, who degrades the very word of the Rebbe Shalom. Shnei Amar, lo, Shnei Amar lo l'Moshe Sinai Anochi Hashem Elokecha lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim. Rabbi Shmuel Silber says, this is incredible. I'll say, get ready for this. Get ready for that. Last two lines. Rabbi Shmuel Silber says, if someone learns and doesn't chazer, doesn't review, the Gemara says, Doma la'adam shezorea ve'ino kotzer. I'll say it's beautiful. This refers to someone who ultimately, again, I'll say, learning Seder has been a little shvach lately. I'm just going to say, I'm not outing anyone, but right, it's been a little bit. What's the word I'm looking for? Oh, non-existent. Right, that was what I was looking for. Right, it was going good for a little bit of time, and then the last couple of days, it's really been, and needs a significant refuah shlema min hashamayim. Right, so I'm sorry. 5:43 it started, but who's counting? If a 10-minute seder is 7 minutes, there's something wrong. I'm just saying. But why is it important? Well, so even if again, I'm kidding, but maybe it's not 5:40 in the morning. I will say, I want to point out something very interesting, and I think this is something that we have to take into account a little bit. We live in such incredible times where there's such a proliferation of Torah, right? I will say, and there literally is more yomis than a person could keep up with, which is beautiful and incredible. I will say, but there is this interesting balance between sometimes more is less. And a person sometimes has to just try to figure out, should I be doing more things? Or perhaps focusing, doing a little bit less, but focusing more on the things that I'm doing. And again, all of us are different. People learn differently. People absorb things differently. But I think a lot of times what ends up happening is I'm learning 15 things, and so there's a lot going on, but I'm not really acquiring anything. So on a given day, I'm getting through a whole bunch of different stuff, but what's mine? What's mine? And this is something that we have to contemplate for ourselves. So Rabbi Shmuel Silber says, and this is so profound, both sides. Look what he says. He says, if you learn and you don't chazer, you know what it's like? It's like planting but not harvesting. Planting but not harvesting. So you planted something beautiful. It's incredible. And mamish, the produce, it's right there. It's sitting for you. But if I don't chazer, I don't harvest it. I don't reap it. I don't reap what I sowed. So it's interesting. Again, different things work for us in learning and different things work for us in ruchnis. So everybody's got to find the right balance. For some of us, it's good. The energy of constantly moving forward on multiple fronts, even if I'm not retaining everything, maybe is what I need for myself in life. But I think at least to retain something, to chazer something, to hold on to something. Because otherwise, I'm planting all of these beautiful things. And I will say, the imagery is so profound. My beautiful personalistic spiritual field is sprouting with so many beautiful spiritual saplings, but everything is sitting in the field. I'm not harvesting anything because I'm not chazering, because I'm not ultimately taking something for myself to retain. Incredible. Rabbi Shmuel says, right? This is a very intense line. Someone who learns Torah and then forgets what he learns is similar to a woman who gives birth and then buries her child. Now, what is that? So again, the metaphor is meant to be shocking. That ultimately, what is it saying? Is that when I learn Torah, we'll say the beautiful part about learning Torah is you birth something. But if I don't remember it, or I don't take the time to try to remember it, I birth something, and then what I birthed simply disappears. Simply disappears. If I'm going to take the time to birth beautiful Torah, it is kedai to take the time to try to hold on to that beautiful young child, to appreciate him, to nurture him, to understand him, and to raise him as my own. Very profound. Rabbi Kiva says, Amud Beis, this is beautiful. Rabbi Kiva Omer, Zemer b'chol yom, Zemer b'chol yom. Sing every day, sing every day. And I will say, now what does this mean? Rashi says over here, Hayem esader limudech, apapi shesider b'ficha, ki zemer, so we'll say, so again, it appears at first glance that Rabbi Akiva is continuing on the same theme. That literally, again, make your learning like a song. What does that mean? Just like we're saying, everybody has their favorite song. And what's the thing about your favorite song? You know the notes, you know the music, you know the words. So Rabbi Akiva says, make your Torah like a song. Make your Torah like a song. So in other words, once again, same idea. Ingrain yourself in your Torah, chazer your Torah, make your Torah yours. Make your Torah yours. We'll say there's also, we'll see more. Well, let's just finish up. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avudimi, Mikra, what's the pasuk? Nefesh amal ameilolo, ki akaf ala piu, hu amal b'makom zeh, v'torasa omelas lo b'makom acher. So we'll say, so quite beautiful. He quotes over the pasuk from Mishlei. Nefesh amal amlalo, right? Literally again, if the soul toils, it will toil for you. Ki akaf alav piu, for you have tethered your mouth to it. What does this mean? So the Gemara says, so if you work on your Torah in this world, your Torah will work for you in the world to come. What a beautiful and incredible idea. If you put in the effort for your Torah here, so your Torah will work on your behalf in the world to come as well. Rashi says over here, Nefesh ama amlabo, mipnei she'ama b'Torah, Torah omelas lo. If you work for your Torah works for you. Next Rashi, ki akaf alav piu, mipnei shehi mesim dvarim befiv, tamid ku'ukav shalach hamor. Lishnachrina, zemer kol sha'osik b'shir mizmiros, tadir, nasa zemer, kach achos ra'torah, nasos. Okay, so I'll say, so quite beautiful. The idea over here is, if you put in the effort in your spirituality, in your Torah works on your behalf. When I learn, I create something new. And that creation, just like the mother that births the child, that creation takes care of me. Just like when a parent has a child, parent takes care of the child. But one day, hopefully, what will happen? The child will take care of the parent. I create Torah. I birth Torah in my life. And understand now, my job is to nurture it. How do I nurture it? I learn it, I love it, I review it. And then what ends up happening is that Torah ends up taking care of me. It takes such a beautiful idea. It takes care of me in this world, and ultimately, again, it takes care of me in the world to come as well. Rashi says over here, Torah omelas lo, shemechazeres alav, umevakeshes me'ez koneh limsor lo tamei Torah v'sidreh, incredible. So in other words, when you learn, make sure to chazer. Because if I don't chazer in some way, to chazer something, I'm planting and I'm not harvesting. Make Torah like a song. In other words, again, which means your Torah should be pleasant, should be beautiful. Understand, when you birth Torah, so you're going to take care of that Torah. And if you take care of your Torah, ultimately, your Torah takes care of you, both in this world as well as the next. So there's also another beautiful idea in this idea by Rabbi Akiva, which is really quite amazing. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva says, Zemer b'chol yom, Zemer b'chol yom. Rabbi will say, this is Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, how should you live life? Sing every day. Rabbi will say, in any given day, you have a choice. Any given day, you have a choice. Every day is the same choice. You wake up in the morning, what do you want to be? Do you want to be happy or do you want to be sad? Rabbi will say, happiness, people make the mistake of thinking that happiness is the result of a variety of life factors. And as I often find people say, I'll be happy when, or I'll be happy if. Right? If your sentences begin with I'll be happy when or I'll be happy if, you will never be happy. Because there's always something else I want, always something else I need. One of the most important yisodos in Yiddishkeit is happiness is a choice. I choose to be unhappy, I choose to be happy. I can't choose a lot of my circumstances, but I choose my emotional disposition. And I will say, I think what Rabbi Akiva is saying is, choose happiness. Zamer b'chol yom, zamer b'chol yom. Sing, just sing. Because again, what's the alternative? You could choose to be happy or you could choose to be unhappy. Choosing to be unhappy is a miserable, horrific existence. Choosing happiness does not fix all of my problems, but at least it gives me a positive disposition. And I will say, when you appreciate everything that Rabbi Akiva went through life, everything he went through, from the time he was young, a little bit young, until the moment he died, difficulty, adversity, poverty, derision, all these different kinds of things. And Rabbi Akiva is saying, choose a life of song, choose a life of simcha. How profound and overwhelming that really is. All right, we'll have to stop over for today. We're doing great, incredible, ridiculous. Ridiculous. We'll continue Rez Hashem with Chazara. We'll continue Rez Hashem with singing. All more tomorrow. Shkach, everyone. All right, Chevron, have a great day, everyone.